Well, hello, my teacher friends. Christina Whitlock here, your host and anytime piano teacher friend. Today, we are talking about how to get other people talking about your work. If you are a studio music teacher looking for the voice of encouragement and experience, you've come to the right place. So let's get to it, friends. This is episode 204 of the Beyond Measure podcast. In the world of piano teaching, or lessons of any kind, word of mouth marketing is king, right? We all know this. The very best way to get more students into your studio is to get other people talking about you and the experience you create. This is pretty universal, right? Like when it comes to this podcast, I can talk about the benefits of listening to this show until I'm blue in the face, but it will only go so far. Inevitably, I get written off as another podcaster who's trying to score downloads so I can sell something. Do you know what really gets me listeners? When people like you share my show. When you text someone a link to an episode and say, hey, I think you'd really enjoy this. Or when you post to a teacher group about something I said that got you thinking. Your sharing my show is infinitely more effective than my sharing my show. But this isn't even about me. When you talk about your studio, sure, people will pay attention. But we also live in an age when most of us are skeptical about advertisements of any kind. And rightly so. We know more than anyone else that someone could advertise their studio as one thing when it is actually something else altogether. People know that when a business owner tells you something about their business, they're trying to make themselves look a certain way. We have to weigh our options very carefully as consumers, right? On the other hand, when someone I know and trust tells me that they like a product or a service, I am much more likely to hand over my money. Again, this is not revolutionary thinking in piano teacher world. We've known these things forever. We've lived the experience. But I think the landscape of getting people to talk about your work is really changing. I don't know about you, but I trust online reviews less and less. The rise of paid review services and affiliate marketing has really changed this idea of trusting someone's experience. Product reviews on retail sites like Amazon and Target are all but worthless to me now, because they're largely a result of companies who know how to work the system. I've written about this in my weekly e-letter, but this is why I rarely engage in affiliate marketing. I have to really like something and believe that it is genuinely going to serve other people before I'm willing to recommend it. I am really hopeful the whole concept of influencer marketing is a bubble waiting to pop. I have a real issue with the lack of authenticity everywhere I look. But before I go down that rabbit hole, the point is this. There are ways to get people talking about you that are more effective than others. First up today, I have a suggestion that seems almost too simple. Show up to your students' stuff. I've been thinking about this a lot lately. But getting people to talk about your work online is fine. We'll go there later. But think about this. Your student Johnny is in his school play. You go to said play. Afterwards, you spend some time chatting with Johnny's parents. Inevitably, someone is going to come up to Johnny's parents, and that will lead to an introduction. Oh, hi, Mrs. Jones. This is Johnny's piano teacher. Wasn't it kind of her to come? Then Mrs. Jones says, oh, you're a piano teacher? I've been looking for someone to teach my granddaughter. Can I get your phone number? This has happened to me more times than I can begin to count. When I was building my studio back to full-time after grad school, I actually kept a log of which student events I attended. I made it a goal to see each of my students do at least one something each year outside the studio. Now, at the time, I did that because I knew it endeared students and parents to me, and that's still true. Back then, I was newly married, I didn't have any kids, and I had the time to do it. Maybe it was their sporting event, maybe they were playing at their church. Band and choir concerts are great opportunities to see more than one student at a time. But when I think back on that time of my life, I met a ton of people going to those events. And not only that, I got a reputation for being a piano teacher that cared about her students' other interests. I would often hear comments from my students who would say, "My friend said their piano teacher never comes to this stuff." I always hate saying these things out loud because it makes me feel so calculated. For the record, I enjoy watching my students do their stuff, so this is not a purely marketing effort. But in hindsight, I think it was really good business. I still definitely try to go to student activities, but it's certainly not as frequent as it used to be. Don't feel like you have to try and get to one student event like I did back in the day. Just aim for one event that you might enjoy. If you have a few students in their school musical, do everything you can do to get there. You'll have a good time, you'll make a connection with your students, and I would be shocked if you didn't make a new connection or two. I have to say that sincerity matters in these situations. If you go to an event and try to market yourself to every audience member who passes by, well, you'll definitely make a name for yourself, but it might not be the one you want. Authentic connections are the cornerstone of our work, right? So let's build on that first idea a little bit. Even more than going to your students' stuff, how about this? Just leave your house. Here's why this matters more than ever. We are becoming a society that is more and more closed off from one another. I'm guilty too. I rarely set foot in a grocery store anymore. I love the convenience of grocery pickup. I'm too cheap for delivery, but it is so time efficient and focused and all the things that I love. I don't spend money on impulse buys. I order what I need and then I go pick it up when it's ready. It's so great. But just as I talked about in episode 203, I do realize I'm missing opportunities by saving time doing this. Mainly, I don't run into people at the grocery store anymore. The opportunities for me to casually run into people I wouldn't otherwise see are becoming fewer and fewer. And I know the introverts among us are rejoicing, like less awkward social interactions for the win. You can do with this what you will, but I will say, if you are looking to build a studio, to get more students, or to just build your reputation in the community altogether, you're going to need to leave your house. I'm sorry to say it, friends. You need to go interact with the outside world. As my mom used to say, you need to go see and be seen. Playing for school choirs or community church events, those are great ways to be seen as well. I get approached about lessons at almost every school event I play for. Many of your communities have organizations for local business owners. I know those are not for everyone, but don't count them out until you try them. If I was starting over, I would absolutely pursue more of those connections. Most people will tell you that they don't know where to go to look for a piano teacher. Like there is no universal database for every piano teacher in your area, right? So this means a lot of times students sign up as a result of chance meetings like the ones that I'm describing. Last fall, I had volunteered to drive another classroom parent on a field trip. And at one point, he was on the phone with his wife. And when he told her who he was riding with, she immediately said, "She's the piano teacher! Get the kids on her wait list!" It was a great reminder that our business is often run on random connections. So, Yeah, when it comes to studio marketing advice, I can't say that I've ever heard anyone say, leave your house, but I think it's pretty good advice. Okay, so I said we would talk about sharing online, so let's do it. Social media shares continue to be an effective marketing tool to a specific audience. To throw back to my earlier example about going to see Johnny in his school play, let's say you find Johnny in his costume after the show and you take a picture with him. Most importantly, you've created a great memory. But also, you have created a piece of social media marketing gold. Assuming you have proper photo release permissions in place, you can then share a post like, "Congratulations to Johnny on a fine performance in his school play." This is the kind of post that is most likely to get reshared by his family, likely with the caption of, "We were surprised to see Johnny's piano teacher at the play. She is the best." Something like that. Those kinds of shares by parents are very likely to stir up some good studio attention for you. In fact, I posted one of those a few years ago and woke up to 7 additions to my waitlist overnight. One post, 7 immediate signups. It was from a family with a particularly wide network of connections. And while we're speaking of connected families, I want you to think, do you have any students who you find yourself saying, "Wow, I wish I had 10 more of you"? I know I do. I'm just throwing out a friendly reminder that those are the students whose families you really want sharing about you. Chances are they have families in their circles who carry similar beliefs and priorities as they do. So again, at the risk of sounding too calculated, think about the families whose qualities you would like more of in your studio and focus your efforts on them. Try to show up for an event for their kids. Share a then and now post on social media featuring their kids. Even more simple, consider a student spotlight post where you highlight a different student each week or each month. Prioritize the students whose parents are active on social media because they are the ones who will share. Social media aside, think about that photo you took with Johnny after his school play. If you don't want to post it, for whatever reason, there are many, just text it to Johnny's parents and say, "What a special memory, feel free to share." Johnny's parents might choose to share it via social media or a group text or whatever, and that is even better. Again, someone who voluntarily talks positively about you is worth so much more than any marketing effort you do yourself. A parent sharing your social media post is great, but them making their own post about you, that is even better. You might be wondering what I think about incentive programs when it comes to student referrals. There are many of you listening who use incentive programs. Maybe you promise families a tuition discount for anyone who names them as a referral and stays in the studio longer than 90 days. Maybe you send a gift card as a thank you. Maybe you're thinking about my advice today and you want to offer an incentive to post about the studio on social media. I think that's a personal decision. It's one of those things we all need to decide for ourselves. But I will say this, though. I have never needed to do it. And if you can't already tell, I have a thing with authenticity in referrals. I always offer a genuine thank you when someone shares my name with someone in their circle. I make sure they know I'm appreciative, but I've never offered a financial incentive for them to do so. In my experience, people will share your name regardless and are happy to do so. If I were in a position where I was really motivated to build studio numbers, sure, I'd consider my options for referral incentives, so you should too. But don't feel like it's a necessity. I think people will share services that matter to them either way. And that makes me happy because I'm never looking for more bookkeeping and records to track. Okay, friends, this is your reminder to go to your students' stuff, to leave the house, and to focus your social media posts to students and families who are most likely to share. Let's toast our way out of here and then announce our teacher friend of the week, shall we? Studio music teacher friends from all around the world. I'm sorry that I'm telling you that you have to leave your houses. You are just such a gift to this world, and I want you to be seen for the incredible human you are. Today, I raise my glass to you and the people who are talking about you to their circles of influence. Cheers to those who share, am I right? Hear, hear. Okay, friends, this is my shameless plug to encourage you to share this show with your friends. I know there are more teacher friends out there who would benefit from this content, and I just can't reach all of them without you. Leaving a 5-star written review on Apple Podcasts is a big old help here in podcast world, and so is sharing an episode with a friend or a teacher group. So let's just keep helping each other out, okay? And now, here's our teacher friend of the week. This week's teacher friend of the week is a fabulous teacher by the name of Rhonda Wren. I'm sure Rhonda has no idea this is coming, so that's always fun. But here's why I love Rhonda Wren. Just a little over 3 years ago, I announced the launch of my Patreon community here on this show. I wasn't sure if anyone would be interested in paying to support my work here on the podcast, but I will never forget receiving that very first notification that someone had signed up. Thankfully, more of those notifications followed, and to this day, I seriously rejoice with every single one, friends. But that very first Patreon community member, it was Rhonda Wren. Look, we all know the importance of encouragement in teaching. I'm sorry it's true, but it is. We all need to know we are appreciated. It's true when you are a teacher working with students, and it's true when you're a teacher working with other teachers. The Patreon community is the #1 way to support and encourage me as I seek to do the same for you. And Rhonda Wren, you will always have my heart for being the first teacher to jump in and support me through the Patreon. That crew of super friends in the Patreon community really are everything that is right in today's crazy world. I appreciate them all so much, whether they sign on for a few months or stay for a few years. Congratulations to Rhonda Wren on being our teacher friend of the week. You can learn more in the link in today's show notes or by heading to christinawhitlock.com/support. That's all for this week, friends. Take great care of yourselves as we go out into the world, leaving our houses, ever onward and upward.